Democrats tell us money is the root of all evil in politics, and for once, they might actually be right. So is it money that motivates politicians? And if so, what's behind that money, and who is the person that pays for it? For liberals, that man is George Soros, and these are leaked memos from the desk of the billionaire progressive. They tell us what's behind that money, and let me just say, it should scare us. Let's take a look at the secrets behind his money. Soros, secret number one. George Soros wants the refugee crisis in Europe to be painted as the new normal. He says the crisis is the perfect tool to influence immigration policies on the global level. Remember, George Soros is a radical here. He's no moderate. He doesn't believe in nations. He doesn't believe in borders. And he's not some nutty college professor sitting in his parents' basement making YouTube videos about his wacky ideas. Soros has the cash to put his money where his mouth is. Soros' secret number two, he paid to influence the justices of the Supreme Court of the United States. It's basically legal bribery here. The truth is, it's not just Europe. Soros doesn't want American borders either, so he pressured the Supreme Court to uphold President Obama's pseudo-amnesty plan. They didn't uphold it. Soros' secret number three, Soros gave $650,000, that's almost $1 million, to the Black Lives Matter movement to fuel the unrest that followed the death of Freddie Gray. He did this to, and I quote here, he did this to accelerate the dismantling of structural inequality generated and maintained by local law enforcement. Sounds insane, does it not? And his staff lied about it too. They denied ever sending money to the protesters, even though they did. And that brings us to Soros' secret number 4 and 5. Soros funds anti-Semitic groups that call Israel racist, all the while paying for smear campaigns against conservative activists here at home. Remember when Bernie Sanders railed against greedy capitalists? Well, that's George Soros he's talking about. And when Soros snaps his fingers, Hillary jumps to the tune of $7 million from Soros to her super PACs. And then what do we hear from the media about this? Radio silence, people. Nothing. Why won't the media report on this story? Look at the New York Times. Nothing. The Washington Post. Nothing. No stories. CNN. Nothing there. CBS News. Nope, not there either. So why? Are they afraid? Is there something we need to investigate here? Does Soros have influence over media companies? Is he controlling the narrative while erasing his own name? And if so, why? And that's my final point tonight.
So, who's funding Black Lives Matter? One of the big donors seems to be George Soros, our old pal, who gives big money to affiliates of Black Lives Matter, groups that do direct business with them. Also giving money directly to the group, entertainers Jay-Z and Beyonce.
Well, Black Lives Matter is seeing green. The activist group now cashing in on tens of millions of dollars from liberal foundations and donors, despite inciting violence with chants like this.
Brown like bacon, pigs in a blanket. Brown like bacon, pigs in a blanket.
That's right, a chant calling for the murder of police officers. Well, the Black-led Movement Fund is a donor campaign aimed at raising $100 million for the group. That's in addition to more than $33 million in grants from top Clinton donor George Soros, whose aim is to destabilize this country. So, does this prove the group is just yet another arm of the Democratic Party? Here to weigh in is the editor-in-chief of the Politistic, Jennifer Burke. Jennifer, it's great to see you this morning. So
great to see you too, Tucker.
I'm not sure how many people have actually read the Black Lives Matter platform, which is not mainstream, to put it mildly. It calls for reparations for slavery, calls for voting for 16-year-olds. It calls for all kinds of things that are just way out of the mainstream of American life. I wonder if the donors have read this. Do you think they have?
I actually think they have. I mean, at least for the Ford Foundation, they're all about social justice. And, you know, when you have Cecile Richards on your board of trustees designating where money goes, which kind of grants go to which people, the woman who is in charge of Planned Parenthood, the largest killer of black children in this country, it's really incredible, and it really makes you wonder what's their end goal, because it's quite hypocritical where their money goes in different places.
I guess what bothers me, I mean, I don't agree with their politics, that's fine. I don't agree with a lot of people's politics, but there is a strain of racial separatism that's really clear when you read their documents and watch their behavior that is bad for the country. I mean, have we given up on the idea of integration, do you think? It seems that way.
It does seem that way, doesn't it? When you have black students in colleges calling for safe spaces, and you have black and white students not going to class, saying that their activism or their classes are getting in the way of their activism. It's really mind-boggling. You know, you had a generation of people that fought for integration, and now you have a whole other generation of people that wants to self-segregate, and you have college universities that are complying with that, with separate housing, new special buildings. It's all quite disturbing, Tucker.
Well, they're arguing for separate but equal and for racial discrimination. I mean, it's Orwellian in its ironies. Here's a quote from the Black-Led Movement Fund. I'm quoting now. The Black-Led Movement Fund provides grants, movement building resources to organizations working to advance the leadership and vision of young black, queer, feminist, and immigrant leaders who are shaping and leading a national conversation about criminalization, policing, and race in America. They're not great writers, as you can tell, but what exactly does that mean?
Yeah, what does it mean? I find it interesting. You know, you started out, Black Lives Matter started out as a movement in Ferguson, Missouri, based on the lie. Michael Brown never had his hands up, never said don't shoot. And I remember in Ferguson, people said there was a lot of out-of-towners, a lot of out-of-staters. And then now it's all of a sudden evolved from this demand for justice on the streets for black people to all of a sudden you have queer, and I just don't even understand where it's going. It's highly organized. There's nothing grassroots about it, like with the Tea Party, and it's just systemic destruction of society. That's all I can think that it is based upon what they do.
And Hillary Clinton has full-throatedly endorsed Black Lives Matter. I think we're the only news organization in America who even notes that. It's bizarre. Jennifer Burke, it's great to have you on this morning. Thanks for doing this. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Milwaukee County Sheriff David Clark criticized President Obama and Black Lives Matter for their lack of support in flood-ravaged Louisiana on Tuesday's Fox and Friends.
Well, that's typical of the phony nature of these individuals. Look, he's an elitist. He's at Martha's Vineyard while American people are suffering down in Louisiana. I'll tell you, it just made my stomach sick to see what those people are enduring. But they're strong down there. They're resilient down there in Louisiana, as most Americans are across the United States. They didn't wait around for him to do anything. And like you said, he was pressured to go down there. So he'll do the obligatory thing now that the vacation's over. He'll do the photo op. He'll hug a couple people. He'll get back on the Air Force One and go about his day. Look, the Black Lives Matter, they don't care about black lives. They don't care about anybody's life. They only care about political power. This George Soros-funded operation has exploited people for purely political power. I am not shocked. I've unmasked these people several years ago, including on your program. I told you this was a political construct, and it had nothing to do with black lives. This was an organized effort for the 2016 election to mobilize black votes.
Being an independent thinking black American isn't easy. Just ask North Carolina quarterback Cam Newton. Newton caused a backlash on Twitter because he doesn't think his critics are racist. You see, if you are black, you are expected to follow a set of rules. Rule number 1, a black American must see racism as the motivation behind every criticism and obstacle in their way. If you dare break that rule, you will face the wrath of the black mob. Rule number 2, a black American must act black. You are expected to hang out with other blacks and do what they do. Seattle Seahawks quarterback Russell Wilson broke that rule and he was criticized. Rule number 3, a black American must marry black. Cleveland Browns quarterback RG3 broke that rule and he was criticized. Rule number 4, black Americans must vote Democrat. Well, I broke that rule and all the other rules I just mentioned. These quarterbacks are amazing athletes and they have enjoyed the success from America's exceptionalism, just like I have. As role models, I urge these talented men to stay true to their principles and stand up to the politically correct barriers that keep black Americans down.